Salutations, fellow readers. I'm dressed as a dark fairy today because we're going to be talking about the fantasy genre. We'll be discussing characteristics of the fantasy genre, the difference between soft versus hard magic, and why I theorize fantasy is typically set in a medieval-esque setting. In order for a book to be considered a fantasy, it needs to have one or more of these three traits. Number one, characters with magical powers. These are not abilities that people would have in our world, like being good at math or music, unless those had properties that were supernatural, like being able to sing people to sleep. Number two, magical creatures. Fairies, angels, demons, dragons, phoenixes, that sort of thing. Number three, a fictional setting. The story is set in a place that isn't real. The difference between fantasy and science fiction is the fantastical explanation. Characters with magical powers have a mythical reason for that, such as they are descended from gods or demons, and that's why they have the powers. In a science fiction book, if somebody has magical powers, there will be a pseudoscientific explanation for that, like some kind of science experiment gone wrong. If a science fiction book has a setting that is fictional, it will be in the future of our world or in space, and there will be a scientific explanation for why it is the way it is. Some books have all three of those characteristics: people and mystical animals with powers in a fictional location. I personally wish there was some kind of distinction between fantasies where there was real magic and fantasies where the setting is made up, where there's no people or creatures with magic. It's just that the author wanted to write a feudal or medieval Europe and they didn't want to worry about historical accuracy. So they just slapped labels onto the countries that are different from what the actual countries' names would have been. And I like stories like this, but I just wish they were classified as something other than fantasy because when I pick up a book with a fantasy label, I expect to see magic, and when it's not there, I do get disappointed. Oh my gosh, I know that book six of Ranger's Apprentice has magic in it, okay? But out of a dozen books, that's really not a lot. So if we could have a separate subgenre for those kind of books, that would be great. Kind of like we have a different subgenre for books that are magical realism. That's a story that has only one magical element, and the rest of the book is realistic. And this supernatural element is never explained or questioned by the characters. They simply accept it. Examples of this are Pet Before We Disappear, where there's only one trait that's happening, such as art coming to life or somebody being able to teleport, that when the characters find out about it, even though they've never seen it before, they just accept it and go with it. And we, the readers, never get an explanation about it, and the characters aren't even curious even though the rest of the book is believable. That just is off-putting to me specifically, and that's why I don't like magical realism. Okay? I love fantasy so much. I also enjoy realistic stories, but I don't want just one little smidgen of something magical that's not explained put into my story. I think this is akin to how I do like water and lemonade, but I do not want a single lemon wedge in my glass of water. All right, then I just have off-tasting water. Give me water or lemonade, not this weird in-between thing. That's why I don't really like magical realism. I guess an exception could be The Picture of Dorian Gray, since technically it does have just the portrait aging instead of Dorian, and it's never explained why, and people who find out don't try to question it and find an explanation out about it. But Dorian Gray is always classified as a classic gothic horror, not magical realism. This might be because the genre of magical realism was founded in South America, and this is a European book that I think was written before that. I'll double check. Let's talk about the difference between soft and hard magic. Hard magic has very clear rules and limitations so that it functions almost like a type of science. Death Note is the only story I've ever enjoyed that had a very strict hard magic system, and it probably worked for me because it's a graphic novel and not a regular novel. I personally prefer soft magic that we see in fairy tales where it's not clear what you can and cannot do with the magic or even much of an explanation about how it works. Any explanations that you are given about a soft magic are quite vague, such as only certain types of creatures and species could do it, or you have to move your hands in a special way, or speak a secret language. It's not getting bogged down too much in specifics. As an English teacher, when I'm reading a fantasy, I don't want to be doing any mathematical calculations. Neither soft or hard magic is superior, but there's just differences between them, and people are going to have their preferences. I have a very whimsical inner child that likes to have someone show me the magic and dazzle me so I can say, ooh. I don't want you to ruin the magic by overly explaining how you did the trick. Why are so many fantasies told in a medieval-like setting? One explanation could be that the author is trying to retell a fairy tale or legend and they want to maintain the setting that it has. But I can think of four reasons why somebody writing an original story may choose to do it too. First and foremost, modern technology can make things too easy and therefore boring. Characters looking things up online immediately instead of journeying to distant lands where there's libraries or experts with information, or characters receiving daily text messages from loved ones instead of waiting days and weeks for letters to travel decreases the struggle. Even fantasies set in the modern world often have excuses why technology doesn't work for magical characters in many locations within the narrative. Magisterium, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, and more series employ this tactic. They do this because greater struggle equals greater reward. Also, some writers and readers like to romanticize work-related human-animal relationships that were necessary in days of carrier pigeons and horse-drawn carriages that no longer exist when people have phones and cars. Additionally, magical people are normally part of an elite group revered by the public or a feared group hunted by the government. People are more likely to fear or revere magic if they're not educated enough to understand it. Books and the ability to read them was not common amongst the general populace before technological advancement made it easier to share knowledge. Finally, reason number four. Magical beings, like sorcerers or dragons, are typically supposed to be the most powerful things in a narrative, and that's hard to manage when bombs exist. What do you think of this explanation? Do you agree or disagree? Do you have other ideas as to why fantasies are often set in this setting? Thank you so much for watching until the end. Comment your thoughts on this topic. Do you prefer hard or soft magic when you read fantasy? Like if you want me to make more videos like this one, and subscribe if you want to see more of me in the future, because that's the best way to support me. Happy reading!